Okay, let's dive into TWIST2 Scalable, Portable, and Holistic Humanoid Data Collection System. This paper, well, it tackles a massive problem in humanoid robotics. Basically, getting enough good whole-body data without needing those huge, expensive motion capture studios. It's a real bottleneck.
It really is. And TWIST2 sort of flips the script. They built their system around a consumer VR headset, the PICO4U. Then they added this custom neck attachment. Really low cost, like $250, but it gives you full body tracking and that crucial egocentric view.
And the speed is just, wow. They talk about setting up in about a minute, walk in, get set up, ready to go. That lets them grab, say, 100 successful pick-and-place demos in less than 20 minutes, with just one person operating it.
Exactly. And all that data, that high throughput data, let them train a pretty sophisticated policy. It's a hierarchical visuomotor policy using diffusion policy. And the results: autonomous robots doing complex stuff, whole body manipulation, even dynamic kicking. Pretty impressive.
So let's step back a bit and talk about this data gap. It's the core problem they're solving, right? We've seen how massive data sets revolutionize things like LLMs and even bimanual robot arms, like with PyMTIC.
Yeah.
But humanoids have kind of lagged behind. Why is that?
Well, it really comes down to the complexity. You're controlling so many joints, degrees of freedom, on a mobile base. It's just hard. If you look at the older teleoperation systems, they often made compromises. Practicality over full capability.
Right, like you mentioned, decoupling, controlling arms and legs separately.
Yeah, that's one type. Or you have partial whole body control. The upper body might be tracked well, but the legs are simplified. Maybe they just follow velocity commands. That works for some things, but you lose that really tight whole body coordination.
And then the full whole body control systems, the ones that track everything, arms, torso, legs.
Yeah.
Those traditionally needed the big mocap setups. Expensive, fixed in place.
Exactly, tethered to the lab. So the big promise of TWIST2 is hitting that full whole body control, but making it portable, scalable, and honestly affordable. No mocap needed.
It seems like they're merging the best of both worlds, the versatility of full control with the practicality you get from VR.
That's a great way to put it. They really cracked the scalability problem without sacrificing the kinematic detail you need.
Okay, let's dig into the hardware itself. How do they actually build this portable, low-cost system? What are the components?
So on the human side, it starts with that PIP2-4U VR headset, and they add 2 PICO motion trackers, one on each calf. The total cost for that human tracking part, around $1,000, which is, a tiny fraction of an optical mocap system.
And that low cost enables the portability and that super fast setup time, the 1-minute thing. Plus it streams data at 100 hertz, which is pretty decent.
Yeah, it's reliable enough for this.
Now, the robot they used is the Unitree G1. That's got, 29 DOF in the body and another 14 in the hands, those Dex31 hands. But you mentioned the neck was critical, this TWIST2 neck add-on.
Absolutely essential. It's a custom piece, just 2 degrees of freedom, yaw, and pitch. They found that was enough for human-like head movement in tasks. Built with 2 dynamixel motors, costing only about $250 for the hardware. Then they mounted a ZED mini stereo camera on it, which adds maybe another $400 for the depth perception.
Okay, so why is that neck absolutely necessary? Why not just mount the camera straight onto the robot's chest or head?
It comes down to egocentric active vision. Think about how humans operate. We constantly move our head to keep things in view, especially when we're moving around or doing complex manipulation. If the camera's fixed, the moment the robot turns or reaches, the thing you're trying to grab might just disappear from view. Teleoperation becomes, well, they said, extremely challenging.
Right, you need to be able to look at what you're doing.
Exactly. That active camera movement, linked to the human's head movement, makes the whole control process intuitive and lets you handle much longer, more complex sequences.
Okay, so they have this portable hardware, the PICO setup, the custom neck. But consumer VR tracking isn't perfect, right? It's bound to be noisier than a dedicated mocap system. How do they take that, let's say, potentially shaky human motion and turn it into smooth, stable commands for the robot? This brings us to their control pipeline.
Yeah, this is where a lot of the smarts are. They use a 2-level hierarchy. At the bottom, there's a low-level controller. They call it TP-Low. This is designed to be general task agnostic. It's basically a motion tracking controller. And importantly, it's trained using reinforcement learning PPO specifically, which helps make it robust to noise.
Okay, RL trained. And to train that, they needed motion data. Did they just use standard mocap libraries?
They used a mix. Big data sets like AMAS, HOMO, even data from the original TWIST project. But the key was bridging the gap between that clean mocap data and the noisier PO data. So they added about 73 motion clips, recorded specifically with the PO system into their training set. It's not a huge amount, but it was targeted.
Ah, so that helps the controller understand the specific quirks and maybe biases of the PIO tracking, like a domain adaptation step.
Exactly. It fine-tunes the controller for the actual hardware being used.
And the input to this low-level controller, this PCMPO, it includes relative root movements, rotations, but also the entire set of whole-body joint positions. Why feed it everything? Why not simplify, maybe just track base velocity like some other systems?
Because keeping those whole-body joint positions is what enables precise legged manipulation. If you only command base velocity, the robot can walk around. But it can't really use its legs dynamically, like for kicking something or pushing off or stabilizing itself accurately while the arms are doing something delicate. You need that full body coordination.
Got it. So that low-level controller handles the noisy tracking. Now, how does the human-specific pose get mapped or retargeted onto the robot structure? They use an adapted GMR method, right?
Yes, generalized motion retargeting, but they made a really crucial modification. In the optimization step, they switched to using a pelvis-centric reference frame.
Pelvis-centric. Why that specifically?
It's mainly about the feet. Global pose from consumer VR can drift. It can be a bit jumpy. If you try to match the global position perfectly, the robot's feet might slide around unnaturally, which is terrible for balance. By constraining the lower body feet, ankles relative to the pelvis, they get really stable, accurate foot placement. It minimizes that foot sliding problem.
Okay, so it locks down the foot placement relative to the robot's core. And what about the upper body then?
That's the clever part. The upper body optimization mainly focuses on matching rotations, not absolute positions relative to the world. This means the human operator can actually move around quite a bit in their physical space, make fairly large shifts, maybe even small jumps, teleportation jumps they called them.
So the operator can recenter themselves or move without causing the robot's upper body to suddenly lurch unnaturally.
Exactly. It decouples the operator's global movement from the robot's fine manipulation posture, leading to much more stable and usable teleoperation, especially for dynamic tasks.
Makes sense. What about the hands? The Unitree G1 has those quite complex Dex31 hands. Retargeting individual fingers seems like it would be really hard with just VR controllers.
Yeah, they went for a practical solution there. They essentially treat the Dex31 hand like a very capable parallel jaw gripper, even though it has fingers. Instead of trying complex finger pose estimation, which is noisy and hard with VR, the operator uses the PICO controller buttons to send a simple grasp command. It's just a single value alpha between 0 and 1.
So 0 is fully open, 1 is fully closed, and the robot just interpolates between predefined poses.
Pretty much. Simple, robust, and it works well enough for the tasks they demonstrated. Focus on function over perfect mimicry.
And the neck retargeting. That sounds straightforward.
It is. Just calculating the relative rotation between the human's head orientation and their spine orientation and mapping that directly to the robot's two DOF neck joints, the yaw and pitch. They found roll wasn't really needed for most tasks, so this simpler mapping worked fine.
Okay, this setup, the hardware, the control, the retargeting, seems really well thought out for practicality and scalability. Let's talk about that payoff. The data collection itself. Table 2 in the paper has some pretty eye-popping numbers.
It really does. Collecting 100 successful episodes of bimanual manipulation in just 18.5 minutes, that's incredibly fast.
And a 100% success rate during the collection phase itself. Plus 46 mobile manipulation episodes in under 20 minutes.
And crucially, this is all done by a single operator. The person wearing the VR headset uses the handheld controllers to manage everything, starting, stopping, pausing, marking data segments. You don't need that second person standing by the computer, which is often a hidden bottleneck in lab experiments. It's truly walk up and use.
They also mentioned reducing system latency significantly, down below 0.1 seconds. That must make a huge difference for controlling complex long sequences.
Oh, absolutely. High latency makes fine control almost impossible. You need that responsiveness for the kinds of long horizon tasks they show in Figure 10, like the folding towels task. That requires really precise wrist and hand movements, plus using the active vision neck to look at different parts of the towel and whole body reaching. They showed the robot could fold 3 towels continuously.
And the other one, transporting baskets through a door. That really highlights the mobile aspect.
Definitely. The robot has to pick up a basket, walk towards a door, use an arm to push the door open while holding the basket, step through the doorway, coordinating its feet, and then place the basket down.
That sequence just wouldn't be possible without the full whole-body control and that active egocentric vision you were talking about.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of why those features are so critical for robots operating in human environments.
The user study they ran seems to back this up strongly. They tested variations of the system, right? What happened when they took parts away? Like, what about without stereo vision?
Yeah, the user study really drills down on why their design choices matter. Without the stereo vision from the ZED camera, users had a much harder time grasping things accurately. They tended to overshoot, grasping too high above the object, leading to more failures. Depth perception was clearly crucial for manipulation.
Okay, and what about disabling the active neck?
That made teleoperation, in their words, extremely challenging. As soon as the robot moved its body, the target object would often go out of the fixed camera's view. Users just couldn't keep track of what they were supposed to be doing. It shows that even if the raw tracking from Pico isn't perfectly accurate like mocap, the active vision provided by the neck compensates significantly, enabling success in these longer tasks.
They also tried a third-person view setup, right? Where the operator watches the robot from the outside.
They did. And an expert operator could actually collect simple data quite fast that way, like 10 episodes in 43 seconds. But the operator had to stand right next to the robot. It completely breaks down for any task involving mobility where the robot needs to move more than a step or two.
So egocentric view is basically mandatory for scalable mobile manipulation data.
Absolutely, for anything beyond static, tabletop tasks.
Okay, so they've shown they can collect a lot of high-quality, long-horizon data very efficiently. The next step is obviously using that data to train an autonomous policy. That's Section 5. The high-level policy, Tato High-Yard, uses diffusion policy. That's become quite popular recently.
Yes, it's a powerful generative approach for policies. They made some specific choices in their implementation. They use a standard ResNet 18 for processing the visual input from the egocentric camera, but importantly, it's pre-trained using R3M.
R3M.
It's a method for learning robust visual representations, often pre-trained on diverse robot interaction data. Using R3M gives the vision backbone a good head start in understanding relevant visual features.
And for the robot's own state, the proprioception, they did something interesting. Instead of feeding the policy the raw robot joint angles and velocities, they feed it historical command sequences, the PayURMD that goes to the low-level controller. Why do that?
It's a clever way to decouple the high-level policy from the low-level execution noise. The robot's actual state can be noisy or imperfectly measured. By having the high-level policy predict future commands rather than future states, it learns a cleaner, more abstract representation of the task. It's essentially telling the low-level controller what to try to do, rather than predicting the messy reality of exactly what will happen.
So it isolates the policy learning from the immediate sensor noise and potential low-level control errors. That sounds like it would help with stability, especially over long tasks.
Precisely. It helps prevent error accumulation. The policy runs inference at 20 Hz, predicting a sequence of 64 future command chunks, which corresponds to about 2 seconds of motion.
So what autonomous tasks did this whole pipeline enable? What results did they show?
They demonstrated 2 main autonomous tasks. First was whole-body dexterous pick-and-place, or WBD dex. This involved the robot reaching up to a shelf, carefully picking up a light plastic cup, maneuvering, and placing it down into a box on the floor.
What was the main challenge there?
According to the paper, the trickiest part was actually grasping the cup reliably because it was so light. It required very precise control, showing the quality of the collected data for fine motor skills.
And the second task was more dynamic, the kick T.
Yes, kick T-shaped box to target. This really shows off the full body coordination. The robot has to use one leg to kick a T-shaped object towards a goal, and simultaneously use its other leg to step forward and maintain balance during and after the kick. It requires coordinating everything.
How well did that work?
Pretty well. They reported success in 6 out of 7 trials autonomously. That's a significant demonstration of robust legged manipulation, combining locomotion and interaction.
Okay, so pulling it all together, TWIST2 seems like a really significant contribution. A portable, mocap-free system for collecting full, whole-body data, which then enables training these complex autonomous policies. But no system is perfect. What limitations did the authors acknowledge?
They pointed out a couple of key things. First, the low-level general motion tracker, the RL policy, still struggles with very highly dynamic movements, think sprinting or maybe very rapid jumping. The PICO data might just not capture that nuance well enough yet. And second, while the PICN tracking is great for portability and cost, its raw pose estimation accuracy isn't as high as a multi-million-dollar mocap system. Particularly for joints that don't have dedicated trackers like elbows and knees, there's likely more noise there.
Makes sense.
Yes.
So looking beyond just this paper, what does TWIST2 suggest about the future direction for humanoid robotics research?
I think there are two big takeaways. One is the strong argument for standardizing humanoid hardware. The authors really push for platforms like the Unitree G1 becoming more common. If data collection becomes cheap and portable like this, the next step is making sure data collected by one lab can actually be used by another. That requires common hardware, or at least very similar hardware.
Yeah, data sharing becomes much more powerful then. And the second takeaway?
It's the democratization of data collection. This work proves you don't absolutely need a dedicated mocap studio to gather high-quality, whole-body, long-horizon data anymore. It opens up this kind of research to many more labs and teams.
And they really leaned into that by open sourcing everything, didn't they? The hardware designs, the collected data sets, the trained models.
Yes. The system, the data on Hugging Face, the models, it's all available. That's a huge boost for reproducibility and for lowering the barrier to entry for other researchers. A really fantastic contribution to the community.
Absolutely. So given that TWIST2 dramatically speeds up collecting this kind of complex, long-horizon data, going from basic walking to folding towels autonomously, what's the next big challenge? What kind of really complex multi-stage tasks do you think will push the boundaries for policies built on this type of scalable data? Maybe preparing a simple meal, which involves so many different objects and steps, or perhaps something like tidying a whole room requiring navigation, object recognition, and manipulation all intertwined. Where does this capability lead us next?